So there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy right now. People are questioning what to do with their money from a short-term basis. People that are bridging that period of time when they're entering retirement. People that are trying to figure out what to do in retirement during their retirement years with their money that they need to keep guaranteed liquidity of, get guaranteed returns of, and ultimately, because of the fact that we've been in this interest rate environment where rates have been going up and there's a lot of uncertainty about, are they going to continue to go up? Are they going to go back down? There's a lot of people that are kind of uncertain what financial products to use are the best for them in this environment. There's a new product that is actually kind of a throwback product that's coming back around. It's a MYGA, a multi-year guaranteed annuity. And ultimately what we're going to do in this video is talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, who it fits for, and ultimately how you can leverage it to help accomplish your financial goals. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, that way you're notified every time I launch a new video. I'm going to get my boy Tyler on here with me, and we're going to get at it. Hey, what's going on, Cashflow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180, and I got my guy Tyler with me. If you guys don't know Tyler, if you haven't seen a couple of the videos with Tyler, he is a partner with Life 180. He's kind of who I call my wizard behind the curtain. He is super just knowledgeable when it comes to product knowledge, illustration design, stuff of that nature. We work a lot together closely when it comes to strategic policy designs and all that stuff. And we've been talking a lot about this lately. There's a lot of people that are looking for alternative solutions, different ways to handle the environment that we're in with the guaranteed money options that we like to help people with. And one of the things Tyler brought up to me that is becoming more and more used as a solution to a lot of people's problems in different ways is this product called a MYGA. And so I figured it'd be best, because he's done a lot of these over the past, 6 months or so? Yeah. So, in the past 6 months, he's done a ton of them. So I think at this point in time, I thought it'd be cool to bring him on because I just figured it's something that not a lot of people are talking about, but it's an amazing tool for the right person. And so let's figure out who that right person is and what problems it can solve, and like what the benefits are, and maybe even what some of the drawbacks are of it, right? And so Tyler, I'm going to have you kind of start off talking about like what is a MYGA in the first place?
Yeah, so a MYGA really is think about it as a longer term CD, right? So everyone kind of knows what a CD is. They're somewhere between 3 month and maybe 18 month. Well, a MYGA stands for multi-year guaranteed annuity. They used to also be known as fixed rate annuities. And think about these as products that are really 2 years to all the way to 10 years, but typically you'll see 3 to 5 year is kind of the most common. And it's extremely simple. You have a fixed rate for that many years, and now that rates are high again, it's certainly back in the loop for a conversation.
Yeah, no, that's great. So let's talk about this a little bit. Like why are MYGAs becoming so popular right now? Why are they? I guess I'll say it this way: why are they so popular with you right now?
I think you initially talked about like the uncertainty, right? And people don't want to necessarily, they're worried about the economy, how the stock market's going to perform. Maybe they've looked at their portfolio and they say, man, I'm really not earning as much as I thought I would for the risk that I'm taking. Then they also don't know, okay, are the rates going to come back down like people are suggesting, or are they going to stay, are they going to increase? I don't have a golden compass, but I would assume that they're not going to stay this high forever, right? And so you have that mixture, and then you have the other side of the fence of like, these longer term retirement products that people are, do I really want to commit to something that I'm going to potentially be locked into for the next 10, 20, 30 years of my, of my retirement or pre-retirement? And so people are really looking for something just to kind of bridge that gap, where they don't have to worry about it. It's completely guaranteed. They have access to 10%, and the rates are pretty appealing, so we're
Yeah.
we can go ahead and talk about.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, so I was talking to somebody the other day, and they had a mother who's 80 years old, had $1 million in cash, and it just, for that situation, she had an option, and what the option she was looking at was putting the money into like a money market account that was going to earn like 5%. She doesn't care about access to the money, but we all know that you may need access to some of it for an emergency or something of that nature. So you don't want to lose access to all of it. And what we looked at was we had the ability to find a product that gave a 5.95% guarantee in that moment. Now, rates kind of fluctuate on a pretty regular basis with the movement of the market. But I think what we looked at is, like, I always say, you got to align your money with your values and beliefs. And a lot of people are kind of feeling like, well, rates have a chance of going down. And when you put your money into a money market account, that rate may be good right now. But if it's 5.4% now, and then a year from now it's 4.5, or 2 years from now it's 3, which is a very likely possibility, right? Especially if we go into a recession or something like that, that's just the way it goes. So if we know that's a possibility, the ability to put, say, 500,000 of that $1 million into a product that's going to guarantee 5.95% for 5 years, and give 10% liquidity of that money every single year, where you could pull out, say, $50,000 a year, penalty free, all that stuff. And the fact that if you have your money in a money market account earning 5.4%, that's going to be taxable, versus having it in the MYGA, it's tax deferred, right?
Right.
And so, like, pretty good setup.
Oh, absolutely. And something that you talk about a lot is people are kind of afraid of I think I agree, obviously with you, that insurance companies do the best job at managing risk, so
Yeah,
somebody that's,
sure.
and you're talking about a money market, well, that could change next month, not even next year. So that's going to change, that rate's going to change daily.
Totally.
So I think people are really looking at, that uncertainty. And you mentioned the tax deferred benefits, and so we can go through like a couple of scenarios that I say, kind of some use cases for people.
Do it.
Love
it.
So, and I have a vibe board now. I have a vibe board now, like Chris.
Yeah, I know, you're so cool. I love it.
So one thing about the rates with MYGAs, and this is like, Chris, you talk about it all the time, making sure they align with your goals, is I see the rates for the 5-year being anywhere between 5.4% all the way up to like 5.95%. And the rates do change, when I say regularly, weekly, and they do announce them. And the biggest difference between this range is the amount of liquidity that you have, right? So I know, Chris, you talk a lot about liquidity.
Yeah.
And so, your liquidity could be somewhere between, they usually break it down between first year and then years 2+, right? And so a lot of times the higher interest ones might have a 0% first year with either a interest, a 5%, or a 10% free withdrawal. So some of them will have, the same interest 5 or 10 in the first year. So depending on how long or how much access you think you will need, kind of gives you this range. And there's, 30 companies, so the rates are always changing. So that's kind of like and that's 5-year, 3-year. And so here's how I can tell the initial shift of why I think rates have already started to go down, Chris, is about 2 months ago, you were at like 6.2 on this high side,
Okay.
So they've already dropped, not a ton, but a little bit. And you can also tell that in the 3-year, the rates are on the high side at around 5.5. So that means that the insurance companies are a little bit
Leery.
cognizant, you know, of how long these rates are going to stay this high. So you can really kind of use that as a gauge of like, well, if they're already starting to adjust those coming downwards, you know, I'm going to say that they manage risk better than you or I. And so they have a better key on what's going on.
Love it.
Now, you know, you talk a lot about this as I've looked at a lot of statements for people, especially in their 401ks, you know, their market and you know, the average person is getting somewhere between 7 and 8% if they're lucky, right? And I've seen it even worse than that. So a risk associated with that compared to 5.95, it's a tough conversation for a lot of people, you know.
Think about the value. Think about that value to get a 5.95%. So you reduce your potential average by less than 15%, but you eliminate risk. You put your standard deviation right at like nothing, right? Like it's there. And so you know that you're going to get that. And so that can be really, really powerful, you know, when it comes to starting off your retirement plan. You know, we talk about the paychecks and playchecks conversation, right? Like your ability, you know, when you're first starting your retirement journey, or when you're like looking to start taking risk off the table, especially since we've been in this low interest rate environment for so low, the ability for somebody to say when they're 55 to 65 in that range as they're starting to prepare for retirement, and to say, wow, if I could lock in nearly 6% for 5 years and still have a little bit of access to the capital with no penalty, you know, for whatever I need, like to be able to lock that 5.95% in-ish, like right now. And of course that could change week to week. It could go up or down a little bit, but at the end of the day, when we look at Monte Carlo simulations, and those are, you know, everybody likes to run them in the 4% range, even though like all the updated stuff would tell you that 2.75 to 3% ish is more the reasonable distribution rate. And if we go with the 3% distribution rate, you're looking at being able to basically double the rate needed on a guaranteed basis for at least 5 years. That's, you know, and think about it. If you live 25 years in retirement, you're basically able to, even if you're going into retirement, you're able to use this asset to double the safe Monte Carlo rates almost with for 20% of your retirement years. That's pretty freaking powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, everyone uses that 4% rule for Monte Carlo. But, you know, even the people that used to create it, you know, and I know you've talked about this before, have come out and said it really should be 2.9, you know, so 3 to, you know, 3.5, I think, you know, fair. But, you know, you're, like you said, if you're in the first few years, I mean, okay, I know that I can take interest only for $28,000 a year and get 5.75 and not touch any of my principal. And now and if I started at 65, now I'm 70, and I know, okay, I have 500 grand left, you know? And, you know, unfortunately, the question is what are rates going to be in 5 years? But you evaluate at that time.
So Tyler, does the interest paid on these, is it simple interest or is it compounding interest at the?
So it is yeah. So and I ran one just for kind of more simple math, like 5.75. It's kind of in the middle for people, and so it's compounding, right? So if you don't take it, so when I talk about that bridge gap, right, of like, hey, I know I'm 60 and I know I'm retiring in 5 years. You know, I'm not real sure if I want to lock myself into one of these, you know, variable annuities or you know, the fixed index annuities where there's an income rider and the roll up and it's going to give me lifetime income. You know, they haven't committed to that. Well, now you know, okay, well, at the end of 5 years, I'm going to be at about $661,000 because that 5.75 is just going to keep compounding if you don't take any interest out, obviously. You know, and so to have that knowledge of like zero risk, you know, no fees, you know, hey, this is where I'm going to be. It makes it a little easier for people to plan because a lot of people are like, well, I don't need to earn 9% anymore. I really just need to make sure I don't lose my money.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, if you do that and you sock that in, I mean, now if you need to take, if you're allowed to have that compound like that after 5 years, now if you need to take a 4% distribution rate off the 661 compared to the 500, you could even take a lower distribution rate so you can lower the risk but get the same effective result as 4% off 500,000.
Correct. You know,
if you're
so
looking at the, yeah.
if 4%, 4% is about 26,000 a year,
Right.
off that number.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So
It's pretty close, right? Like compared to 3%, like they would say on the other side. So I think utilizing it for the bridge there. I haven't done this, so I got to ask you this: like comparing this to CDs right now, because I know CDs. A lot of people love CDs because safe product at a bank. It's convenient. The bankers, if you've got money at at Chase Bank or any of these places, credit unions, they're going to sell you CDs, and so. People that are looking at CDs, what would you say the rates for a MYGA compared to a CD right now? I honestly haven't checked this out.
yeah, so I mean, you see a lot of CD rates, and the low, I would say high 4s to low 5s. You don't really see any more CDs at that mid 5 level like they were kind of towards the beginning of this year. So I'd say somewhere between, I see them all depending on your dollar, depending on the bank, depending on how much of a CD. They're a little bit more strict and choosy, in my opinion, on who they want to give the higher rate to. Based certain banks, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere between 4.5 and 5.2 is kind of what I've seen. Is kind of that range. But again, it's on a 12-month window. So the problem is what happens in 12 months.
Yeah. No, I mean I think that's true. And typically with CDs, you're not going to have the penalty-free access, to a portion of it that you have here, right, with the MYGA. Typically
Correct.
with
Yeah.
CD, there's going to be a penalty for any kind of liquidity. So they're both, I wouldn't call either one of them liquid assets, but a MYGA, if you choose the right one, can at least have some liquidity penalty free, which is valuable, right? So apples to apples, even if they paid the same rate, a CD is not going to be the same term. I mean, I guess you could buy a 5-year CD. I'm curious. I'm going to look something up while we're on the thing here. Like, I'm curious to see like current
CD. The max length is typically 2 years. I mean,
yeah. So like a 20, so a 60-month CD. Looking at this website, first observation, a 60-month CD right now, 3.25%. A 6-month CD is 5.25%, and a 1 year is 4.75%. So like the longer you go out, the lower it is. And that just goes to show these banks are kind of seeing and feeling like the trend of the interest rate environment going down is a real possibility, right? And so when you look at it like that, to be able to lock this in, if banks and insurance companies are both kind of thinking that if you do have that capital and that safe guaranteed return is important to you, especially if you're nearing retirement or in retirement and you have some money that you'd like to, lock in and guarantee to get that return to enhance the rest of everything else that you have going on. This could be a great option. I don't know of another asset that will give these kinds of returns with that little bit of liquidity, the way these things do. And so I don't know. I just think it's really powerful. And I just thought we should get on here and talk to people about it because, it just, I think when it comes to looking at what the market has done the last couple of years with the bond market, what it's done and how hammered that's been getting, I think it's I think it's a real opportunity to look at the markets as a whole right now and just kind of take a look at everything and say, all right, like bonds are getting hammered. If there's a percentage of your money that you typically have in like a bond fund, what would it look like if you maybe transition some of that into something like this right now that's going to pay and lock in on a guaranteed basis with no standard deviation, and get you tax deferral and all that stuff on that capital, it could be a good resource, especially with a little bit of liquidity that it potentially provides on the short term, if needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's just another tool that I think when rates were really low, or over the past decade or so, really the past 2 years is when things started to come back up. Is rate the 5-year MYGAs were at like 3%, so no one was really, it wasn't worth the liquidity versus the return that you were going to get. People just figured, oh well, I think I could probably average better than a 3% rate of return. Now, though, the economic situation is different. So, it's everyone is different. Everyone has different risk tolerances. But I do see an uptick and a shift of people not wanting to take the risk.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. So is there anything else that we didn't cover on this from like a basic 101 perspective on MYGAs or whatever?
No, I mean, my only 2 cents would say, there's different lengths, right? Make sure there's a ton of companies out there.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, so you want to make sure you go with a good A-rated company, and that their balance sheet is good. Now, I put 0 risk, but I don't know, Chris, this.
It's always a risk based on the stability of the insurance company you're going with.
Right. So I don't see anything happening really there. And then it's a matter of just making sure you're not going to need access to more than what you do. And another thing I've seen is for people that are on the fence is they ladder them. So they'll do like, a portion into a 3-year and a portion into a 5-year, just to kind of give them that extra liquidity if they're not entirely sure.
Yeah, no, I hear that. So, well, rock and roll, guys. If anybody is thinking about doing this, what I would say is there's at the end of the day, I'll say it this way: MYGAs are just annuities. They're a special type of annuity. Most insurance agents will have access to them, but most insurance agents don't really deal with them a lot, and so make sure you deal with somebody that has experience in doing it. What I can say is Tyler and our team have a ton of experience. So I'd really encourage you, if this is something you're even contemplating, something you think there's a potential chance that you might be interested in it, go down in the link below, schedule a clarity call. Just mention when you set up the call that you're interested in talking about a MYGA, MYGA, multi-year guaranteed annuity. And we'll just make sure you get on the phone with Tyler and the team, and that you can have a conversation to see if it's a right fit for you or not. We call it a clarity call because it's really not a sales call. It's designed to just help you have clarity so you can make a more informed decision for what's best for you. So anything else from you, Tyler?
That's it for me today.
All right. Rock and roll.
I'm not a big camera guy, so.
Well, you did great. So that's awesome. Well, guys, if you found value in this, please like it, share it, get it out there to people. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell. That way you're notified every time I launch a new video. Till next video, have a blessed, inspirational day. We'll talk soon. See ya.